Mm. Hello, everybody. Good evening. It's Happy Wednesday. Um, give you guys a few moments to pop in so we can get started. I will not be before you guys very long, I promise, on today, unless Holy Spirit leads me differently. But just need y'all to come on in the room. And I am going to wait for some of you guys to pop on. Um, Welcome to the Mental Wellness Sanctuary. I'm your host, Francis McMillan, licensed mental health therapist and mental wellness coach here in Jacksonville, Florida. Um, just a quick reminder, I'm probably going to end up waiting until February to do this, but I think I'm going to change the time. I know I mentioned it last week, but I have some other things that are coming up. But I think in February, I'm definitely going to switch the time to 7 p.m. instead of 7:30, um, just so I can get some things done. Also, don't forget, if you guys, I know you probably have been seeing it all over my social medias, but just in case you guys are interested in attending the very first mental wellness sanctuary workshop with myself, the topic of choice is going to be unlearning is not for the faint of hearts. It's going to be a spinoff from a live that I did a few weeks back. So I want to say thank you guys for joining me. Welcome. For those of you that are joining me on Facebook and for those of you that are joining me on Clubhouse, I appreciate you guys being here. Um, so again, don't forget the Mental Wellness Sanctuary, the very first workshop on learning is not for the faint of hearts, is going to be held on January the 27th at noon. I do have in person as well as virtual sessions available. So if you guys are interested in joining me for that, you can definitely click on the links. I'm sure Miss Natasha's going to post them in just a moment for you guys to be able to join. Just register. The registration is $25 if you're going to join me. And I would hope that you would, just because there's a lot of things that we can definitely unlearn to kind of help us propel us forward. So, without further ado, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get started for my topic today, which is delayed obedience is still disobedience. And y'all know, for those of you that know me personally, you guys know that I am the queen of negotiation. I'm always trying to delay something or was trying to delay something that the Lord was asking me to do. And I actually had to go back and think about a couple of things about how that looks. First of all, how that looks to God, but at the same time, also just how our delayed obedience impacts those who we are assigned to or who we are destined to help, or you know if we have something that somebody else needs and we're sitting on it, how it could impact that other person's life. Like, you could have the keys to unlock something that somebody else needs so that they can be great, so that they can do what it is that they need to do. And they're unable to do that when we're not walking in the things that we know that we should be walking in. So, of course, I just wanted to piggyback or just talk about that in a little bit more detail, just from the two spaces that I mentioned it from. Um, Somebody had posted it, uh, and it made me think about it in terms, I thought about it in terms of time at the time, but going backwards, I'm looking at it in terms of just how it looks before God. So, whenever we get an unction that we're supposed to be doing something and we don't do it, um, they said it was disrespectful to God. And I didn't even think about it like that, y'all. But when they shared it, and I know I mentioned this last week, but when they shared it, it was like, dang, that kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, because me, the queen of negotiation, at one point in time, I was like, well, technically we could do it like this and like that and like this, because it's easier for me. It was more comfortable for me. But I realized that, and I can only speak for myself, my delayed obedience definitely came from a fear of something. It definitely came from me possibly just wanting to remain comfortable in certain areas. Let's be honest, sometimes growth is not always comfortable. Well, most times it's not always comfortable. And so, even if we start off in this place of moving forward, right? with our growth and all of that, there can be some really interesting times. It could be some really tough things that we have to plow through. And so sometimes it's like, well, once you get this full scope picture in front of you, possibly a full scope picture, let me say that, of what you have to do to be obedient, a lot of us is like, you sure? So we sit on it and we go back and forth with it and we don't do whatever it is that we need to do. So when I thought about it, I was like, y'all, I can't be being disrespectful to the Lord. Like, oh gosh, I can't be being disrespectful to the Lord. So now I'm like, okay, let me get myself together. So from that aspect of it, it also for me showed that I'm only speaking for myself, y'all. If you can identify, say you can. If not, it's okay. But it also showed me that I did not necessarily have the trust and faith in him that I said that I did. Because if I did, I would just move on whatever it was that he was saying for me to do. But oftentimes it was like, I ain't do it. I ain't do that. I ain't do that. I ain't do that. I ain't do that. So I had to take a closer look at myself personally and say, Francis, do you really trust what it is that God is saying for you to do? Um, is it fear? Is it the comfort? Is it the lack of trust and a lack of faith? Like, y'all, I had to, and I still do have to go through these things where in certain seasons of my life or in certain areas of my life, once he shares what it is that he would like for me to do, I'm like, that means I'm gonna get a little less sleep. And you know how I love my sleep, Lord, and so on and so forth. So that's just from his perspective. When we look at it from a personal perspective, right? Um, let's just say that you are the person that again that has something that a community of people need, or let's just say a family member, a trusted loved one. Let's just say you have the things, the tools, God has equipped you with those things to be able to help that person move forward, to break free from bondage or to walk into their purpose or their destiny, whatever those things are, right? Let's just say that by you moving forward in those things, you're directly opening up the door, not only for yourself, because we don't go through things for just ourselves, we go through things for other people, but you opening that door or you walking into whatever it is that he has asked you to do could change the trajectory of somebody else's entire life. So I had to start processing my delayed obedience in a way that, okay, put yourself in this other person's shoes. Like if I was in a particular place in space and I was really looking for whatever it was that, y'all had, I'm like, hey, come on with it. Like you got what I need, and I'm trying to not be in this place. So we have to be mindful that in times where there are things that we need to do or say, even if it's not like that, y'all, even if it's something as different as, God lays it on your heart to bless somebody by giving them something, money or furniture or food or something like that, and you sit there and you don't move on whatever it is that he's asking you to do it when he's asking you to do it, it's like we be messing up, y'all. I don't know about everybody else, but I know I do sometimes because I don't always move when I hear something. And sometimes, if I'm honest, there have been situations with me where he's had to tell me a couple of times something. And then I still sit up there and act like I ain't here. And then he'll send somebody else that I know sit at the feet of Jesus to tell me again what it was that he told me to do. And I'd be like, all right, y'all. So again, we just have to be mindful. Yes, delayed obedience is still disobedience. And so when we're trying to be obedient to the Spirit of God and we're trying to do whatever it is that we need to do, we definitely need to be mindful that in our disobedience, um, we could be greatly impacting somebody and not even like I can't even tell y'all how many times God has told me to do something and I did it, and the magnitude, the glory that he gets from me moving when he's asked me to move or different things like that, like, is life changing. And sometimes we don't understand. We think it's something small, but it could be something really big to the individual or to the kingdom of God if we just go ahead and move forward with whatever it is that he's asked us to do. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Um, at the flip side, y'all, because of course I said I did not have a whole lot, but I did want to make sure that I actually brought this to the forefront of your mind for you to think about, because a lot of times um, I had to start looking at my disobedience as being selfish. I know that's not a familiar, a nice or good word for some people, but I had to start processing it that way in order for me to start moving different. I'm not saying y'all have to do that, but I'm just saying that's what I did. And then I also thought about how if we flip this script around and not necessarily make it about other people, but make it about ourselves, right? A lot of times we find ourselves in the way of whatever it is that he is actually trying to do in our lives. Um, so if he has asked you to start the business and you haven't started the business, but by you starting the business, when he asked you to start the business, there were doors open and opportunities that were there. There were people there that were perhaps ready to receive you or to be able to support your business or fund your business or whatever. And that's just an example. But for whatever reason, we've delayed that process. And like I say all the time, life is always going to be lifing. Things are always going to be happening. But when we know there are things that we should be doing, we should just go ahead and do those things. So I thought about how we get in our own way. So I'm going to give you guys some tips really quick in order for you to be able to figure out, are you in the way of, like, is your of disobedience or your delayed obedience in the way of what it is that God would like to do in your life? Or is your disobedience in the way of whatever it is that God would like to do in your life? And so the scripture that I have for that is Proverbs 13, verse 4. And it says, the soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. So let me give you guys these 6 questions that I want you to think about. And it's only 2 questions that I want you to think about. And if you have quiet time or prayer time, or however it is that you choose to do it, when we have these lives or different things like that, I want you to take these topics back to God and ask him if there's anything that he needs to show you about you. That's always usually my prayers, like, okay, Lord, show me about me, because at the end of the day, I'm the only person that can change whatever it is that I need to change in regards to myself. So again, since we like to remain comfortable, since we like to stay in control, and we've had talks about being in control, we've had talks about being comfortable, and these are the things that directly keep us in delayed obedience or disobedience, whichever one, however you want to look at it. Um, and because of that, we definitely block our blessings that he's waiting to give us because of our delayed obedience or disobedience. So I want you to think about this. Is the first question. um, in what ways have you been standing in the way, right, of whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing? So if you had to write this down, I want you to write down a list of some of the things that you feel like you're supposed to be doing that you haven't done. Um, and I know we talk about this often, but I think a lot of times we're like, oh, I'm just waiting on God to do this. I'm just waiting on him to bring that. I'm just waiting on him to change this. And a lot of times it's not the case. A lot of times he's waiting on you to do something that he's already asked you to do. And like I told you guys last week, once I started really just moving and doing the things that I know I was supposed to be doing, like i.e. going to the school, which your girl is surviving. Say, clap it up for your girl. She's surviving her first, I think this is week 2 of the doctoral program. So I'm proud of myself, y'all. I was so nervous about this program. However, I think I'm going to be fine. Keep me in your prayers, by the way. So the first thing is I want you to make a list about some of the things that you feel like you are in direct delayed obedience or disobedience about doing. So write those things down. And then once you begin to write those things down, I want you to put down next to it if it's something that is a part of your personal or professional growth. So put it down if it's something that is a part of your personal or professional growth. And if you had to guess, what would be the, like, say for instance, if you did do this, what would be the outcome of it? What do you think would become of this? If you decided to do this one thing that you did not think that you want to do, what do you think would become of that? What do you think would be a result of you walking in obedience in these things? Because sometimes we just need to see a visual picture of ourselves. And don't get me wrong, sometimes you don't always know. So even if you don't know, right, I don't know. Um, and then I want you to think about another reason why you're still in delayed obedience or disobedience. So when you're thinking about these things, I want you to think about the following. Consider the following. I want you to think about your environment. Um, I want you to think about your circle of friends. I want you to think about your family dynamics. And I want you to think about your own personal habits or behaviors or whatever those things are. I want you to think about all of those things. And then I want you to think about what about these environments needs to change in order for you to stop delaying your obedience and moving into disobedience and, moving into a space of obedience. I want you guys to think about that. Your environment is a big deal. If you're surrounded around people that are not going anywhere fast, or you're in a circle of friends where you realize that you're kind of sort of like, I'll use a table analogy. Let's just say you're all at a table, right? And you're always finding yourself at the head of that table where you're doing a lot of the pouring or being the main person or something like that. But then, who's pouring into you, who's nurturing you, who's helping you stay on track, or who's pushing you forward. And so sometimes we have to make sure that we're in the right place, that we're sitting at the right table in the season that God has us positioned in. Some tables are really good at one particular time in life, but once we get into another place, that table might not be where you need to sit at. Doesn't mean anything is wrong with the table. It just means that that table is no longer a space for you. Like, it's not going to give you what you need in this next season. So sometimes God will change your table. He'll change your circle of friends. He'll change your environment of people being around you. One of the biggest things to consider as well as is family dynamics, or your family. Sometimes, just being honest, sometimes we don't have the best support. Even those that are in family sometimes are not the biggest or the best supporters of you. And sometimes we can feel like they're pulling us down instead of lifting us up. And so you have to be mindful of that. Are you trying to please a family member? Are you trying to live up to somebody else's expectations, or, different types of things? This is oftentimes something we see with family dynamics, where the parent was like, well, this is what I wanted for you to do. You should have went to school for that, whatever the case may be. But God is calling you to do something totally different. So sometimes we have that inner pull and tug with which direction to go when it comes to that. And then the last part is about um, any behaviors that you have. We talked about habits. We've talked about, we've talked about habits, but I want to remind you guys about, other dysfunctional behaviors or other things that you might find yourself doing that doesn't allow you to move from this place of delayed obedience. Um, A lot of times it's just that we like to be comfortable. And a lot of times it's just that we are not necessarily, I don't want to say, what's the word? I don't want to say that we are cool with it or we're comfortable with it, but a lot of times we're comfortable or we enjoy doing some of those very things that we know keep us in delayed obedience or disobedience, and that's just an honest assessment. Um, but so you have to figure out, which one are you going to serve? What are you going to do? Um, so do keep that in mind when you think about dysfunctional behaviors, especially when you know that you are a person that spends a lot of time doing stuff that's not really intentional. Okay, well, that's not something that you're going to be able to do if God is asking you to start a business and move to this place and go to that place and go, do different things. So just consider those things, guys, as you're moving from this place. Make that list. Um, See what you're in disobedience about. Once you make that list, is this something that's personal or professional? Sometimes it's both. Sometimes both of those things are needed when we're trying to move into a place or do something. And sometimes we don't even understand that us doing this very thing that God asked us to do. Like, I'll give you guys an example, only about myself. A few years ago, when I was first called into leadership, it was not something that I felt like I was equipped to do or wanted to do. Um, I completely, I walked into it, but I didn't embrace it, and it took me a while to actually really fully walk into it. And then once I started walking into it, I got a little bit easier. It got a little bit better. But me looking back at it today, that me obediently, eventually, delayed obedience, right? Me eventually stepping into that role has directly set me up for this season of my life. It has pushed me forward. It has forced me to grow both professionally and personally, which is why I was bringing that to you guys' attention. Um, but I had to do the same thing, guys. I had to go back and look at that list, and I had to go back and evaluate my reasons for the delayed obedience. With the leadership thing, it was directly connected to fear. It was also directly connected to being comfortable. I like being in the background, the person that is putting the well oil machine, making sure that the machine is running. That's what I like to do. Back there in the back. You'll never need to know that I'm there. Nobody never needs to see me. And I was okay with that. But being in leadership in certain places will push you to the forefront. Um, so I had to look at those things, guys. And then lastly, like I said, I also had to look at my environment, my circle, my family dynamics, my own habits, my own behaviors, um, that were getting in the way of me moving forward and what it is that I needed to do. And so I just wanted to leave you guys with that this evening. Think about this, because we got to get moving, y'all. There are people that are waiting for the things that you have, and they can't get those things technically until you go ahead and do whatever it is that you feel like you need to do, no matter how small or big you might feel it is. Just know that it's always going to be monumental for your growth and for your progress. It's going to greatly bless your life, even though it might not seem like it or feel like it at the time. So keep that in mind. So, again, guys, I am Francis, your licensed mental health therapist in Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you for joining me at the Mental Wellness Sanctuary. Again, for those of you that are just now joining me, thank you via Facebook, YouTube, and Clubhouse. Just a few reminders. Ms. Natasha probably already posted it, but I do have my journals available. This is my journal manifest. This one is specific, more of like a guided journal to kind of help you guys get unstuck. If you're trying to figure out which direction to go, what it is that you kind of need, I kind of give you some questions and some tips and all of things that you're able to ask yourself, accountability partners, things of that nature that can assist you with helping you manifest those things in your life that you desire, and kind of help you get there. Also, for those of you who may or may not be aware, this is my very first book, Mask Off, Embracing Self Care from the Inside Out. This is a book that talks about how to not only take care of yourself from the outside, but the inside. We really should be doing self care from the inside out because what flows from within comes out. And so when we are in this place where we're working on our healing, where we're working on our emotional intelligence, where we're working on showing up for ourselves or being here or, doing certain things, we want to make sure that we are doing it from the inside out. Because if we only do it from the outside, then it's temporary. Whatever those things were that forced you to need the self care in the first place is going to be waiting for you when you return. Just because we ignore things or choose to cover them up or mask them does not mean that they are going to go away. And so we need to make sure that we are mindful about this working from the self care inside out. Plus, whatever is connected to you or going on with you directly impacts those around you and even those you're assigned to. So, we don't want to be bleeding on people, guys. We want to be able to be an example for others if we may. And then lastly, of course, y'all, I definitely have my Speak Life into Yourself affirmation cards. So of course, like I mentioned to you guys before, there is a theme that is in front of that, which is my card for today. Get out of your own way. There's a scripture that's connected to it. And then on the back side, there are questions specific to whatever this is to kind of raise awareness for you to be able to move through these things so that you can get to this place of freedom and so that you can get to this place of purpose and destiny that God has waiting for you guys. Of course, don't forget, I have my event, the first mental wellness workshop, that's going to be talking about unlearning is not for the faint of hearts. If you are interested in attending that as well, Miss Natasha has also placed that inside of the comment section. There's a link there if you know anybody that wants or needs supervision that is a registered mental health counseling intern. I can definitely assist with that. Or if you are interested in counseling or consulting services with me, the link for that is also inside of the comment section. So, again, y'all, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I greatly appreciate you guys. I hope to see you guys back next week at the Mental Wellness Sanctuary with me, of course. I haven't settled on this topic yet, but I think the topic is going to be if you have time. I think you have time. It's going to be about us and how we see time, how we view time, and how we manage our time. We mismanage our time so much. And because we do that, we're not as effective spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or physically as we could be. And so we're going to have a good conversation about time. So I think that's the one that I have scheduled for next week. I think I'm gonna stick with that one. And then I also wanted to put in the comment section as well that Natalia Rice Academy is going to sponsor 10 individuals for the workshop. So if you are in need, would like to attend the workshop, but you're unable to pay for it, the workshop is $25, guys. For those of you that'll be joining me, I have some stuff that I'll be doing. Of course, there'll be like refreshments and things like that there. So for those of you that join me in person, there's a nice little treat for you guys. And as well for those of you that are joining me virtually, if that's your speed, again, it's only $25 to join me, guys. But I think I have some very valuable information that's going to help change your life. So please let me know if you are in need of sponsorship. You can definitely send me a message on any of the social media platforms, or I hope you guys can hear me. I don't know why it's breaking up. Maybe it's the video. I'm not sure. Um, but if you guys are in need of sponsorship, please reach out to me and I will put you guys' name down on the list. Again, that is on January the 27th from 12 to 2. So please make sure that you write that down. If you think somebody else could benefit from it, share it with them as well. Um, Anybody is welcome to join us. So I'll see you guys next week, Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Of course, I wanted to change the time, but I'm going to wait until next month to do that. So, all right, guys. Until next time, this is Francis signing off. Good evening.